Vila had never seen so much water in her life. On her home planet Zeker, water was rare. They called it the dying liquid, a thing that drowned, swallowed, and never returned what it took. There were only dry lands, cracked soils, and endless deserts stretching further than the eye could see. But now, here she stood, on the edge of a massive metal platform, staring at a world made of water. The sky above was pale blue, the waves below deep and dark, stretching forever. There was no land, no dunes, no sand, just endless shimmering waves. Moving slowly and endlessly, she felt dizzy just looking at it. Her heart pounded in her chest. First time seeing an ocean? A voice asked from behind. Vila turned sharply. Her eyes met a tall human with sun-baked skin and short black hair. His name was Leo, her assigned human guide on this exchange mission. Leo smiled at her nervous face. "It's all right," he said. Most Zeker visitors react the same way. Vila swallowed hard. She hated how weak she felt. "How do you live here?" she asked. "How do you survive when the world itself wants to drown you?" Leo laughed softly. "Because for us, the water isn't just danger," he said. "It's life, fun, and home." Vila shook her head. This made no sense to her. On Zeker, stepping into water deeper than your ankles was death. "I don't believe it," she whispered, staring at the ocean again. The waves were calm, but looked like a giant beast waiting to swallow her whole. Leo walked to the edge of the platform. "I'll show you," he said casually. "Show me what?" She asked. "What humans can do in water," he said with a grin. "You'll be surprised." Vila raised an eyebrow. She didn't like surprises, especially on a planet made entirely of water. But Leo didn't explain further. Instead, he started checking some equipment near the edge. "Ropes, air tanks, flippers. What are you doing?" she asked with a frown. "Getting ready," he said. "Tomorrow, we're going out to the cove. It's a peaceful spot. Perfect for first-timers." First-timers? For what? "For seeing beneath the surface," Leo winked, then walked off, leaving Vila standing there with 1,000 questions. As night fell, Vila sat alone in her cabin. The walls hummed with the sound of water slapping against the station's legs. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined herself sinking into darkness, lungs burning, no air, no light, just cold and death. Yet Leo's smile haunted her too. Why was he so confident? Why wasn't he afraid? The next morning, Leo knocked on her door. "You ready, desert girl?" She scowled but followed. They climbed onto a small boat that rocked on the waves. Vila felt sick already. The ground was supposed to stay still, not dance under your feet. The boat roared to life, cutting across the water. Wind whipped through her hair. Salty spray stung her skin. She tried not to show her fear. Leo talked during the ride. He told her stories about his people, how children learned to swim before they could even walk properly, how some humans could hold their breath for minutes, diving deep without machines. Vila stared at him, disbelieving. "You're joking," she said. "Not at all," Leo chuckled. "We even have competitions to see who can dive deepest and longest." Vila shivered. "Madness," she muttered. "You're all mad, soon." They reached the cove. The water here was clear, shimmering blue-green. Vila could see faint shapes moving below. Fish maybe, or worse. Leo stood up, stretching. "This is it," he said. "Our diving spot." Vila stayed seated, clenching the boat's edge. "You said you'd show me," she reminded him. "I will," Leo smiled. He removed his shirt, revealing a lean, muscular body marked with faint scars. He pulled on his diving gear. Flippers, a mask, and an oxygen tank. Vila's eyes widened. "You're going in there?" "Of course," Leo grinned. "I'll show you how humans dance with the sea." Before she could protest, Leo gave a playful salute and dived off the boat. Vila gasped, rushing to the edge. She saw bubbles rising, but no sign of him. Seconds passed, then minutes. Her heart raced. She looked around helplessly. Should she call for help? But no one was nearby. Just the wind, the sky, and the deep, endless water. "Come back," she whispered, anxiety crawling up her spine. More time passed, still no sign of Leo. What if he had drowned? What if the sea monster she feared had dragged him away? Just when she was about to scream, the water broke. Leo shot up from the depths, laughing and gasping for air. Vila collapsed back onto the seat, overwhelmed with relief and confusion. See? Leo shouted cheerfully, water dripping from his face. Told you humans can dive. Vila stared, breathless. The desert girl had never seen such madness or such bravery. But deep inside, a new feeling stirred, curiosity. What else could humans do that her people feared so much? And more importantly, what was hidden beneath that endless water that made a human laugh instead of scream? She would find out, she had to, even if it meant stepping into the one thing her people had always avoided. The water *. Vila couldn't stop thinking about what she saw. Leo had vanished under the water for so long, and yet he returned alive. Laughing, how could a creature of land survive where no air existed? Back in her cabin, she stared at the water through her window. It was calm now, like a sleeping beast. But she knew better. The deep always hid its teeth. That night, she dreamed of sinking, her body dragged down by unseen hands, her lungs screaming for breath. But then, in her dream, Leo swam beside her, smiling like the water was his sky. She woke up gasping, sweat dripping from her brow. The next morning, Leo knocked. Ready for another trip? He asked. Vila hesitated but nodded. But this time no surprises, she warned. Leo laughed. No promises. They boarded the same boat. Vila held the side tightly. The wind was sharp, but the sea was calmer. As they sailed, Leo pointed to distant spots. There, he said. Is the drop? The drop? Vila asked. It's a trench, Leo explained. Deeper than any mountain is tall. It's a place where sunlight never reaches. Vila's skin crawled. And you go there? Not without proper gear, Leo admitted, but some parts of the sea, the caves, the ruins, they're shallower and full of wonders. Ruins? Vila repeated, her interest caught. Yeah, Leo said. Underwater structures built by someone, no one knows who. Not human, not Zikr. Some say it's the ancients. Vila frowned. The ancients? That's just a story. Maybe, Leo shrugged. But stories come from somewhere, don't they? Vila looked over the side. The water was darker here, deeper. She felt its gaze somehow, like the sea was watching her back. They reached another spot. A natural cove surrounded by tall cliffs. Water sparkled like liquid glass. Leo stopped the boat. Here's good, he said. Want to try dipping your feet in? Vila shook her head. No, I'll watch, Leo chuckled. Fair enough. He slipped into his diving suit again. Vila watched as he carefully checked his oxygen tank. His mask, she asked. Why do you trust the water so much? Aren't you afraid of drowning? Leo smiled gently. When I was a child, but then my father taught me. He said, you don't fight the water, you flow with it. That makes no sense, Vila muttered. To you, maybe, Leo replied. But water isn't the enemy. It teaches patience, balance, humility. Before she could argue more, Leo dived again, disappearing beneath the surface. Vila sat back, watching the waves ripple. Minutes passed. She expected him to surface soon. But time kept ticking. She leaned forward, looking closer. Still no Leo. Her pulse quickened. She thought of her people's tales, of being swallowed by water, never seen again. What if he was gone? Suddenly, bubbles surfaced near the cliffs. Then a shadow. Then Leo burst out of the water. But this time, he looked different. His face was serious, his eyes scanning the cliffs. Vila waved. You all right? She called. Leo nodded but climbed back into the boat quickly. We need to move, he said. What happened? There's something in the caves, he muttered. Something old, something watching. Vila's eyes widened. You saw it? Just a glimpse, Leo admitted, starting the boat's engine. But it wasn't a fish, and it wasn't a human. The boat sped away. Vila looked back. the cliffs growing smaller, but her mind stayed there. What was it? She asked. I don't know, Leo said quietly, but I'm going back with better gear. Are you mad? Vela snapped. You saw something unknown, and you want to return? Leo looked at her, his eyes steady. That's what we do. Vela, humans explore, even when we're afraid. Vela sat in silence. She thought of Zeker's rules, never touch deep water, never go near it. But here was a human, ready to face the unknown, while she trembled on the boat. Back at the station, Vela couldn't rest. She kept imagining the cave, the shadow, and the whisper of something old waiting beneath. Her curiosity was aflame now, burning away her fear. That night, she made a decision. She would see it for herself. If humans could face the deep, why not her? She wasn't just a desert girl anymore. She was a visitor on a world of water, and it was time to understand it. She prepared quietly, copying what she'd seen Leo do, packing a small tank, learning to breathe deep. She knew it was dangerous. But the unknown called her louder than her fear. Tomorrow she would dive alone and find out what waited in the forbidden depths. Vela stood on the edge of the small boat. The morning sky was pale. The sea stretched quiet and endless. She was alone, her heart pounding against her chest. She tightened the small oxygen tank to her back, just like she had seen Leo do. The mask felt awkward on her face, but she forced herself to stay calm. The water waited, still and dark. Vela whispered to herself, "You are not weak." With a deep breath, she jumped. The cold hit her like a wall. Her body shivered as the water wrapped around her. The mask kept her breathing steady, but her mind screamed with fear. Down she swam, pushing past the pull to rise back. Her eyes adjusted. Shapes formed. Shadows of fish, drifting plants. Then, the cliffs came into view. The underwater walls leading to the cave Leo mentioned. Her arms burned, but she pushed forward. Finally, the cave. It was wide, its entrance like the mouth of some ancient beast. She hesitated, thinking of the stories from Zeker about creatures that ate whole caravans. But she was here now. She couldn't turn back. Vela swam inside. The cave was dim, but soft glowing lights dotted the walls, lines and symbols she didn't understand. She reached out. Her fingers brushed one of the glowing lines. It lit brighter, sending a wave of light through the cave. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed in her mind. Zeker. You return at last. Vela's breath caught. She looked around, but no one was there. Then the water stirred. From the depths of the cave, a massive shape emerged. A creature, part machine, part flesh. Its eyes glowed gently, not with anger, but recognition. You are not as your kind once were, the voice said again, directly in her thoughts. Vela tried to speak, but the water swallowed her words. She pointed to herself, then to the surface. The creature watched, then said, You are Zeker of the dry worlds, descendants of the waterborn. Vela's mind spun. Waterborn? Her people feared water, hated it, yet this thing called them its children. Her lungs began to ache. She was running out of air. The creature noticed. Return with the human, it said. Only together can the past be remembered. Vela pushed herself back, swimming fast. The entrance of the cave felt miles away. Her chest burned. She kicked harder, her vision darkening. Finally, she broke the surface. Gasping, ripping the mask off, air rushing into her lungs, she coughed hard, grabbing onto the side of the boat, her whole body shaking. When her breath calmed, she whispered, Waterborn? What does that mean? Suddenly, a voice called from the distance. Vela. She looked up. Leo's boat was approaching fast. He looked furious and worried. He pulled her up. What were you thinking? Diving alone? Vela shook her head. I had to know, she said, her voice weak. Leo stared. You could have died. She grabbed his arm. Leo, there's something down there, she said. A creature, a guardian maybe. It spoke to me. In my mind, Leo's eyes narrowed. Spoke to you? What did it say? That my people are waterborne, she said. That I have to bring a human back with me. Only then will it reveal more. Leo looked away, the waves calm around them. His face was troubled. I've heard the term before, he said slowly. Waterborne. It's in old Earth legends too, creatures that cross stars on oceans of space. Vila blinked. You're saying my people came from water worlds? Maybe, Leo said. Maybe Zikr was once like Thalasus, but something changed. They sat quietly, the sea around them like an endless mirror. Finally, Leo stood. We'll go back, he said. Together, tomorrow, with proper gear. Vila looked at the sea, still shaken, but also burning with curiosity. She had faced the deep, touched its secrets, and survived. For the first time, she didn't fear the water. She wanted to know it, and deep down, she felt the water wanted to know her too. The journey wasn't over. It was only beginning. Vila stood on the platform, watching the waves stretch out to forever. The sea no longer looked like a monster to her, but it was still a mystery. Leo tightened the straps on her new diving gear. His hands were careful, his face serious. You sure about this? He asked. Vila nodded. I want to understand. I need to know what that creature meant. Leo sighed. It's not just swimming, Vela. Diving is skill. You have to learn to listen to the water. Then teach me, she said. I'm ready, Leo smiled faintly. We'll see about that. He led her to the shallow training pool near the station. It wasn't the open sea, but it was deep enough to learn. First rule, Leo said. Breathe slow. Panic is your enemy. The sea senses it. Vila sank into the water slowly, letting it embrace her. She shivered but stayed calm. Good, Leo encouraged. Now float. Trust the water. Don't fight. She relaxed, her body rising gently. The water held her like a careful hand. For the first time, Vila felt weightless. Hours passed. Leo taught her how to move underwater without wasting energy, how to control her breath, how to read currents. She failed many times, choking, coughing. But Leo never scolded her, only reminded her, the sea is patient. You must be too. By the end of the day, she floated with ease, moving gracefully like the fish below. That night, Vila sat with Leo on the observation deck, watching the moonlight ripple across the waves. Why do you care so much about the water? She asked. Leo looked at the sea, his face distant. When I was a boy, I almost drowned, he said. But my father pulled me out. He taught me that fear doesn't have to chain you. You can turn it into strength. Vila listened quietly, understanding. More about her guide. What about your people? Leo asked. Why fear water so much? Vila shook her head. It's how we survive. Water was always a killer on Zikr. Anyone who stepped too deep vanished. But maybe that's not the full story, Leo said. Maybe your people forgot who they really were. Vila stared at the water, thinking of the guardian's words. We'll go back to the cave, she said. But I'll swim in myself, I have to. Leo smiled. You've got courage, desert girl. The next morning, they prepared stronger gear, extra oxygen lights. Leo reminded her, stay close. If you feel tired, signal me. Vela nodded, determination in her eyes. They set out by boat, the water glimmering under the morning sun. When they reached the cliffs, the sea was strangely quiet. They dived together, the water surrounding them like cool silk. Vela stayed close, her body remembering every lesson Leo taught. The cave entrance appeared, dark and waiting. Vela took the lead, swimming into the shadowed mouth. The glowing lines on the walls lit up again, sensing her return. Then the guardian emerged, massive, ancient, its voice booming in their minds. You have returned with the human, as was needed. Leo's eyes widened, his body tense, but he held still. Vila pointed to herself and then to Leo, her gesture asking, why us? The guardian's eyes glowed brighter. Because together, you remember. Zikr were waterborne, humans, they're kin of the sea. The stars took your memories, but the sea remembers all. Leo frowned. What do you want from us? The guardian replied, "Touch the seal." A large stone circle at the cave's heart began to glow, ancient symbols swirling on its surface. Vila swam forward, her hand trembling, Leo beside her. Together, they placed their hands on the seal. Suddenly, visions flooded their minds of cities beneath oceans. Zeker and humans together, building, exploring. Then came a great disaster. A migration to dry worlds, memories wiped to survive. The connection ended. Vila gasped, her mind spinning. "We were water people," she whispered. "We forgot everything." Leo stared at her, then at the Guardian. "Why show us this now?" The Guardian's voice was solemn. "Because the water is rising again, old tides return. You must remember to survive what comes." Their oxygen alarms beeped. They were running out of time. Vila and Leo swam fast, escaping the cave, breaking the surface together. They gasped for air, clutching the boat's side. Vila looked at Leo. "Did you see it? The visions?" Leo nodded. "Yeah, and it changes everything." Vila's eyes burned with purpose. "We have to tell them. My people must know." Leo smiled. "And we'd better train harder." "Desert girl, there's more diving ahead." Vila laughed softly, the water dripping from her hair. For the first time, she didn't feel like a stranger to the sea. She felt like she was coming home, and the sea welcomed her. Vila could not sleep that night. Her mind kept replaying the images from the cave. Cities beneath oceans, tall towers glowing under waves. Her people, Zeker, swimming with ease, laughing with humans. How could all of that be real? Yet, it felt real, like an old song suddenly remembered. She stood by the window, staring at the dark sea. The waves whispered like voices calling her back. She turned when the door knocked. Leo entered, carrying 2 steaming mugs. "Couldn't sleep either, huh?" he said, handing her one. Vila took it. The warmth welcome in the cold night. "How can I sleep when everything I knew is a lie?" Leo chuckled softly. "Welcome to my world. Happens every time we explore something new." Vila looked at him. "Leo, what did the Guardian mean?" "The water is rising again." Leo sat down, face thoughtful. "Earth has stories, ancient floods, lost continents swallowed by seas. Maybe it's not just legend. Maybe something is waking, something old." Vila shivered. "You think something is coming?" "I don't know," Leo admitted. "But the Guardian wanted us to see those visions. There's more to learn, deeper down." Vila hesitated. "I want to go back, but deeper this time, to the core of the ruins." Leo raised eyebrow. "You sure?" "That's risky. Deeper means colder, darker, and more dangerous." Vila stared at the sea, her eyes burning with determination. "I have to. I need to understand where my people came from. What we lost." Leo smiled faintly. "All right, but we'll do it properly. We'll need better equipment, more oxygen, lights, heat suits." "Then let's start preparing," Vila said. The next days were a blur of training. Leo taught Vila how to manage pressure in the deep, how to control breathing to last longer. Vila's body changed. Her limbs grew stronger, her lungs capable of holding air longer. She learned to move with the water, not against it. She wasn't the same desert girl who once trembled at the sight of waves. She was becoming something more. Finally, the day came. The weather was calm, the sky pale. Their boat sailed out quietly, both of them geared for the deep. As they reached the cliffs, Vila looked at Leo. "Are you ready?" Leo grinned. "I was born ready." They dived together, the sea cold but familiar. The cave welcomed them with its glowing symbols, but they swam past the familiar hall, deeper into tunnels unseen before. Light from their suits cut through the dark, revealing murals carved in stone. Vila paused, tracing the images, Zeker figures swimming beside humans, sharing tools, knowledge, then pictures of something darker, giant waves, storms, machines sinking. At the deepest chamber, they found a new seal, larger than before. This one glowed faintly, waiting. Vila and Leo placed their hands on it together. A flood of vision struck them, but clearer this time. They saw an ancient Warning, a pulse deep inside the planet, a force that once caused the seas to rise, swallowing civilizations, forcing species to flee to drier worlds. But now, that force stirred again. A countdown, the planet was waking, Vila gasped, pulling away. It's happening again, she whispered. The sea is going to rise. Swallow everything. Leo's face was pale. We need to warn them, both our people. But then, the water trembled. A low rumble echoed through the cave. Something was moving below them, deeper still. The guardian's voice returned, heavy and urgent. Go, warn the surface. The water remembers, and it rises to claim its own. Their oxygen alarms beeped. Time was running out. They kicked hard, swimming upward, the cave walls flashing past. The sea around them felt alive now, currents stronger, the weight of the deep pressing on them. Finally, they broke the surface. Gasping, pulling onto the boat, the waves were no longer calm. The water churned as if restless. Vila looked at the horizon, dark clouds forming. The sea is changing, she whispered. The awakening has started. Leo caught his breath, then grabbed the radio. We need to contact both stations, Earth and Zeker's embassy. Vila nodded, still staring at the waves. She wasn't afraid now. She understood the sea wasn't the enemy. It was a message, a memory, and it was calling them to remember before it was too late. As the boat sped back to the station, Vila promised herself she would dive deeper again. No matter the risk, because in the deep lay the truth of their past and maybe the only way to save their future. Asterisk, the waves no longer slept. The sea had changed since their last dive. The air smelled of salt and storm, and the currents beneath carried a silent warning. Vila stood on the platform, staring at the restless water. She could feel it. Something was moving below, something ancient. Leo walked up behind her, tightening his gloves. Storm's coming, he said. If we're diving, it has to be now. Vila nodded. We don't have a choice. If we wait, the deep might disappear forever. She wasn't the same anymore. The desert girl who feared water was gone. Now, she felt part of it. Like her blood carried the rhythm of waves. Leo checked their gear. Double oxygen tanks, high beam lights, reinforced suits for the deep pressure. We go straight past the ruins, he reminded, to the pulse chamber. That's where the Guardian's message came from. Vela strapped her mask on, her hands steady. I'm ready, they launched. The boat, the sea rocking them harder than before. But neither spoke of turning back. At the cliffs, the water was darker than ever. Clouds covered the sun, making the surface gray and heavy. They exchanged a nod, then dived. The cold wrapped around them like 1,000 hands. The light from above vanished quickly, leaving them in a world of blue and black. They passed the familiar murals, the glowing symbols, but the sea felt different. Tense, alive. As they swam deeper, Vela saw lights flickering below, not from their suits, but from the stone walls. The ruins were waking up. Finally, they reached the lower tunnels. Deeper than they had ever gone, at the heart, a massive door stood sealed. Covered in carvings of waves, stars, and creatures unknown, Leo pointed. There was a glowing indent. Shaped like a hand, Vela understood. She swam forward, pressing her palm into the stone. A low hum shook the chamber. The door cracked open slowly, revealing a vast space beyond. They entered, light from their suits catching glimpses of giant pillars, machinery half buried in coral. Then they saw it, the pulse, a great sphere of light, beating like a heart, resting in the center of the chamber. Every pulse sent vibrations through the water, and the walls responded with faint echoes. Vela approached carefully, the glow reflecting in her eyes as she reached out. The Guardian's voice filled the chamber. The pulse of origins, it is the memory of the sea, of all waterborne species, left to sleep until the stars call again. Leo swam up beside her. Why wake now? He asked aloud, though sound was lost. The Guardian answered anyway, its voice in their minds. The stars shift, planets warm, the oceans rise. The memory wakes to guide or to drown. Vela's hand touched the sphere. Visions flooded her. She saw worlds covered in water. Cities floating, species thriving. Then came destruction. Skies burning, oceans boiling. Civilizations escaping to dry lands. But the pulse kept beating, waiting for a time to rise again. Her mind strained to hold the images, but she saw one thing clearly, a symbol, a key, a design meant to control the pulse. To balance the sea's rise, she gasped, pulling her hand back. Leo grabbed her shoulder, concern in his eyes. Vela's breathing was fast. There's a way to stop it, she thought, but we need the key. Suddenly, the chamber trembled, cracks formed in the walls. Rocks shifting, the sea was waking. And it wasn't going to wait. Leo signaled. They had to leave. Now they kicked hard, racing upwards. The tunnel shook, currents pulling at them. As if the deep itself wanted them to stay, Vela pushed, her lungs aching, but her mind sharper than ever. She would not drown here. Not when she was so close to understanding. They broke the surface just as the first raindrops hit. Both of them gasped, dragging themselves onto the boat. The storm had begun, waves tossing the vessel roughly, but Vela barely noticed. She stared at Leo, her eyes burning with fire. There's a key, she said, panting. A way to control the pulse, to stop the flood. Leo coughed, catching his breath. Where? Vela shook her head. I don't know yet, but the vision showed a structure, not under the sea, but on land, somewhere forgotten. Leo's face turned serious. Then we need to find it, fast, before the sea rises and takes everything. Vela looked back at the cliffs, waves crashing harder now. She wasn't afraid. The water was awake, and so was she. And now it was a race to find the key before the sea swallowed the stars. The storm didn't sleep. For days the waves battered the coast, the sky dark with heavy clouds. The sea had changed, and everyone on the water world of Thalassus could feel it. But Vela didn't hide. She stood at the station's highest deck, staring at the raging ocean. Her heart no longer feared the waves, it listened to them. Leo joined her, soaked from the rain, carrying a small hologram device. I decoded the symbol from your vision, he said, switching the device on. A three-dimensional map appeared. Spinning slowly. It's here, Leo pointed. A ruined island in the north, almost forgotten, mostly underwater now. Vela studied the projection. The key is there, she whispered. I can feel it. Leo nodded. It's our last chance. They wasted no time. Together, they prepared a fast boat, reinforced to survive the storm. The sea fought them, waves slamming like fists, the wind screaming. But neither Vela nor Leo turned back. Hours passed and finally, through sheets of rain, an island emerged. Barely a mountain jutting from the ocean, old stone structures stood crooked, swallowed by vines and salt. This is it, Leo said. What's left of the old world. They stepped onto the wet ground, the storm howling above. Vela touched the stones, feeling faint vibrations. It remembers, she said. The sea remembers this place. Deeper inland, they found a broken temple. Its doors collapsed. Inside, carvings told stories of Zikr and humans as one people, living with the sea, taming it. At the heart of the temple lay a pedestal, broken but glowing faintly. Vela approached slowly. Her hand hovered over the glow. Suddenly, a pulse shot through her, not painful, but warm, welcoming. The guardian's voice filled her mind again. Welcome, Waterborn. The key is memory, unity. Between those who forgot, Leo watched as Vela's eyes glowed faintly. She was connecting. The pedestal shifted, opening to reveal a small orb, intricate with patterns of waves and stars. Vela picked it up, the orb humming softly. This is it, she said. The key to balance the pulse. Leo smiled. But the ground trembled underfoot. The sea roared louder. We have to activate it, he said. Where do we go? Vela closed her eyes, the orb guiding her thoughts. The pulse chamber, she said. We must bring it to the deep. Without wasting a moment, they ran back to the boat, the storm even worse now. Waves tried to swallow them, but they pushed forward, back at the cliffs. They prepared for one last dive. Leo looked at her. "Are you ready?" Vela nodded, gripping the orb tightly. "Let's save our worlds." They dived into the raging sea. The water was no longer cold to Vela. It felt alive, like it knew what they carried. Down past the ruins, past the ancient murals, the pulse. Chamber waited, glowing stronger than before. They swam to the center, the great sphere of light beating like a living heart. Vela raised the orb, and the sphere responded. Light flowing from one to the other. Suddenly, visions filled their minds. But this time, clearer, they saw the past. Zeker and humans side by side, taming the seas, sharing knowledge. They were one, separated by time and fear. Then, the future. If the pulse remained wild, the seas would rise, drowning all. But with the key, balance could be restored. The sea would rise not to destroy, but to renew. Vela pressed the orb into the sphere. Light exploded, not burning, but gentle, waves of energy flowing through the chamber. The tremors stopped, the currents eased. Above, the storm began to calm. Vela and Leo surfaced to find the sky clearing. Sunlight breaking through the clouds. The sea was still peaceful. They climbed onto the boat, breathing hard. "We did it," Leo said, looking at the calm horizon. Vela stared at the water. "The sea remembers us," she whispered. "And now we remember it." When they returned to the station, messages had already spread. The waves had calmed across the planet, the storm fading. But the deeper message was clear. Zeker and humans were not strangers. They were kin of the water, separated by sand, sky, and stars. Vela stood once more on the platform, watching the sea sparkle under the sun. She smiled. "Wait, humans can dive?" She laughed. "Now, so can Zeker." Leo laughed with her, knowing this was only the beginning. Together, they would teach both worlds to dive, to remember, to unite, because the sea was awake, and it was waiting for them.